Lesson time in the refugee camp. Hunger has brought these pupils here, the hunger for food and knowledge. Nimet Ayub is 14 and came here on her own. She walked the 200 kilometres to Yida in South Sudan.
We have escaped from the war, and because we were teachers from Nuba Mountain, so we are now trying to assist our children as well as possible.
Getting to Yida isn't easy. Our trip coincided with the rainy season and the entire region was flooded. Our flight was delayed 3 times, so we had to wait for days. But finally, we took off for Yida, a village that's now home to almost 70,000 refugees. Nimet Ayub is one of almost 3,000 children who have come here without their parents. They live in this camp and are cared for by the UN Refugee Agency UNHCR. Gladys Naomi Tapp is herself a former child refugee. 20 years ago, she fled the civil war in southern Sudan and crossed into neighbouring Kenya, so she understands the hardships these children face. They live in cramped quarters with no proper beds or shoes. There's no variety in their diet. They eat millet every day. Like the others, Nemet has no money to buy vegetables or meat. She tells Gladys that she came here with a small group of children led by her older brother. Nemet's village came under fire and her brother and uncle were killed in front of her eyes. She doesn't know what's happened to her parents. Nemet misses them terribly and longs to go back to the mountains to search for them. Gladys tries to console Nemet and says that maybe her parents are here at the camp. She promises to look for them. Yida is swimming in mud. During the rainy season, conditions here are catastrophic. Yet the camp now houses 70,000 refugees. Half a year ago, there was just 1/5 that number. Aid agencies can barely cope and Gladys struggles to keep up with the latest development. Like an outbreak of trachoma, a contagious eye disease transmitted by direct human contact and by flies. Left untreated, it can cause blindness. Many of the victims are children.
We found out that most of the children are suffering from eye problem and it is swelling. You can now see from this child here. It is almost 5 that we have identified in MSF yesterday.
Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, has set up a mobile clinic here. But trachoma isn't the worst problem its physicians face. Many patients suffer from diarrhoea, especially young children.
Right now we're seeing children come to us when it's almost too late. They've already become very weak. We even have children who've gone into shock. So we witness children die in our ward almost every day. Naturally, we do our best, but our resources are limited.
Doctors Without Borders is trying to fly in more personnel to improve conditions. The aid organisation is expanding its operations here, even though it has already come under attack from North Sudan. Last November, bombs were dropped on Yida. Newcomers to the camp are getting a tour. The hospital used to be run by 2 doctors and 6 international aid workers. Their numbers have now doubled, but they're still understaffed.
We see here is that the sanitation, health, hygiene situation is unbearable. It's at the crisis level, and in this clinic we have a medical emergency in terms of the number of children who die.
Contaminated drinking water is often to blame. While the well water is clean, the containers the refugees use are often not.
This is one of the jerrycans that we are trying to avoid because they fetch water using this jerrycan and leave it open, so the flies goes in and the water got contaminated, and then they just drink it. It's also one of the results of causing diarrhea.
Cholera hasn't broken out yet, but the danger is growing. More and more people are fleeing from the Sudanese province of South Kordofan. We drive towards them and try to reach the border and the city of Yao. But the route is almost impassable. We keep sinking into the mud and the rain doesn't help. The border town of Yao consists of a few dilapidated huts. Soldiers from the South Sudan People's Liberation Army are everywhere. We're not permitted to interview or film them, but they keep walking in front of our camera. They're here to provide security. The last attack from the north occurred around 3 months ago. Not everyone could hide in underground shelters like this. Some 80 residents were killed. Still, most of the refugees feel safe when they arrive here in South Sudan. they rest a bit and recover from their long journey. This woman says they've been walking for 3 days and have used up almost all of their rations. She also reports bombing by the North Sudan army. The women's husbands have either died or are fighting with the rebels. It will take these people another day to reach Yida, where they can register as refugees and will be given ration cards. Gladys asks about Nemat's parents. She learns that there are people named Ayubi at the camp, but they're not from Nemat's village. Gladys gives Nemat the bad news. Nemat's torn between homesickness and the desire to go to school in a safe environment. She tells Gladys she wants to become a doctor and save as many lives as possible.